Good evening. The book I'm going to recommend in tonight's episode of Recommended Reading is known as The Greatest Show on Earth, The Evidence for Evolution. This book explains in quite a bit of detail how and why evolution works, and it does so in quite a simple yet accurate manner. If you want to understand evolution, I really recommend reading the entire book. If you already understand evolution, there's still one part that's really interesting, and you might have heard me talk about this book before because it's really relevant to understanding the basic problem, one of the basic problems with understanding reality. You see, Professor Dawkins argues that a lot of people have a hard time understanding reality, that they have a hard time understanding evolution because they believe that species of animals exist. And according to Dawkins, that is not the case. There are no such thing in nature as species of animals. Species are something that human minds and cultures make up, something that we use as a tool for understanding nature. It is our perception of nature, not nature in itself. Um, this becomes a bit easier to understand if we make a clear distinction between physical reality outside of us, internal realities inside of us, and social realities between us. And also about this unnecessary conflict between the idea that physical reality exists in its own right and the idea that the reality we live in is socially constructed. Both these perspectives are true, and this book sort of explains why we actually need a bit of social science and psychology and so on, not only for understanding people and understanding society, but also for understanding nature and the universe. Because when we look at nature and the universe, sure, they exist independently of us, but our perception of them does not exist independently of us. On the contrary, our perception of them is a part of us. So I'm not going to take the entire argument for how evolution actually works, but the book really explains how the concept of species can be really problematic. You might have heard that two individual animals are the same species if they can produce fertile offspring, and they are not the same species if they cannot. But this, in reality, this basically boils down to that, well, that's always the case, except when it's not. So, yeah, read the book, really interesting book on the whole, and you don't need to read the whole thing. I mean, if you only read the first part, that's a really great start, and then if you want all the details, then you can just read the whole thing. But have a look at it at some point. Especially if your interest is either only with natural science or only with social science, because we really need to see both sides of this coin. And that's all I have to say for now. Live long and prosper.